What's up guys, Carlos here, Los.Ent. Did you watch Get Out? And if you did, here's some things that you might have missed that I've caught. So far they're my theories. I don't know if they're true or not. I didn't talk to the director, but if they are true, that's pretty cool and a little bit creepy. So heads up, there will be spoilers in this video. If you haven't seen it, don't watch it. But you guys should definitely check out my reaction / review about it. The link is down below. Check it out. I don't give out any spoilers. So here we go. A couple things that you might have missed in the film that might mean something, which they usually should. I know writers and directors, when they have something in the film, either wording or placement of a product or location, whatever, it all means something. Nothing means nothing. You guys might be familiar with ad placements or product placements, like if somebody's drinking a Pepsi, that's for a reason, not just because they found a Pepsi right there in the house. No. Or the electronics they're using. Oh, is it an iPhone or is it a Samsung phone? Is it a Windows phone? That means something. So if we don't focus on all of that and we focus on the theories and what actually was written in the film, these are some of the things that I caught. So number one, in the beginning of the film, when Rose and Chris are driving towards the parents' house, they hit a deer. And there's multiple things that actually happen within these 10 minutes. Number one, this is the first time we get an introduction of the hit and run theme. And the hit and run theme comes up multiple times in the film. It has to do with his mother. His mother died from a hit and run. And directly we get a scene of a headshot of the deer crying, slowly dying, and then we get a headshot of Chris just staring at it. Later on we get to know what actually happened with his mother, and then we kind of piece it together that he was looking at the deer like if it was his mother, just because like his mother, she was on the side of the road, the deer was on the side of the road. But we'll get into that a little bit later. Also, Rose didn't care that they hit the deer. She was like, why are you going over there? Like, what are you doing? She didn't show empathy. Chris did. Now the next thing I did like a lot. At first I didn't get it like right after it happened, but as we get to the conclusion and we realize that the Armitage family are fucking crazy, and so is Rose in on it. Rose is talking to a policeman arrived to the scene. He's talking to Rose, and then during the middle of it, the cop asks Chris for his ID. Chris reaches for his wallet and then starts pulling out his ID to give to the officer. And then immediately Rose is super defensive, saying, why do you need his ID? He wasn't driving. That's bullshit. He doesn't need to give you his information like that. And at this point in the movie, it's the beginning of the movie, we're like, yeah man, Rose is a fucking dope ass girlfriend. She's sticking up for her man or whatever. And she even says that, like, I don't want nobody fucking with my man. It was making us like Rose. The real reason she didn't want Chris to show his ID is because she didn't want to leave like a paper trail or something. She didn't want the cop knowing his name, because as we already know, they were going to brainwash him and whatever. So fuck you, Rose. So this one I actually did not call. I found this on the internet on a blog. When Chris and Rose approach to the house in the car, and we see this wide angle shot of the house, there is 2 Omega symbols on the front porch. And for anybody who knows what the Omega symbol means, is a Greek symbol for the end. So it's kind of like a metaphor for Chris reaching the end. When we actually get to the house, we meet the 2 parents, and the parents are talking with Chris and Rose. Chris and Rose say that they did hit a deer, and the dad is excited and he's glad. He's like, yes, kill them all. We're one less down, is what I say or whatever. And then later we find out that the deers was kind of like a metaphor for black people. When the mother, the dad, and Chris and Rose are outside drinking iced tea and getting to know each other, Georgina, the housemaid, she's pouring iced tea in everybody's cup. She's refilling it. As she's refilling Chris's cup, she kind of blinks out and overspills it. If you guys caught it, Missy, the mother, she hit the glass, and which kind of like put her in a little hypnotist and like made her blank. It's showing a little clue that they were hypnotized, or Georgina was hypnotized. So this is another one that I love. When Chris is alone with the father, they're walking. Dean, the father, says, we hired Georgina and Walter to look after my parents. When my parents died, we couldn't bear to let them go. They weren't talking about Georgina and Walter, they were talking about their parents. Later we know Dean's mother and father are actually inside Georgina and Walter. There's a scene when Chris goes outside for a cigarette break, and we see Walter sprinting at him. Later, Walter confesses, oh, I'm sorry to frighten you for my exercise or something like that. So Walter was probably running at night because his father never got over that wrestling match with Jesse Owens. Before we find out about Georgina and Walter being hypnotized, we have a couple shots of Georgina looking at herself in the mirror, fixing her hair, and whatnot. She was fixing her hair so you won't see her scar where they did the whole transplant or whatever. This is also why we never see Walter without a hat, because the hat covers up the scar. Oh yeah, as well to Logan, Lakeith's character, when we first meet him, or not when we first meet him he's regular, but then the second time we get introduced to him, he's wearing a hat once again, so we won't see the scar. So when Missy, the mother, hypnotizes Chris, she explains how it's a sunken place where she was at when he's hypnotized. This could kind of be a metaphor for black people in America, how they feel stuck. This might be a reach, but that's just something that I thought of. During the big party, when everybody shows up, all of the white people are wearing some type of red. Chris is the only person who's wearing blue or a different type of color. This could kind of be a metaphor between us versus them. So this is another one that I found on the internet. This also might be a stretch, but it kind of makes sense. But once again, we haven't spoken with the director, so we don't really know. During the party, and we get Logan, you know, freaking out when Chris uses his cell phone to take a picture, his flash messes with Logan. What the article said, that cell phones have been a big part of shedding light on police brutality in America. So they were trying to connect that what's going on in real life, of how we're using cell phones to document and share all this crazy stuff that's happening to black people in America. Chris used the same instrument, the cell phone, to kind of show what's going on with Logan and why he's dressed like that and acting like that. So when Chris and Rose walk off during the party, they go by a lake. Dean, the father, says, "Should we get on with bingo?" And then a few minutes later, we realize that they weren't really playing bingo. They were doing an auction. They were holding up cards. So basically an imagery of slavery, of auction slavery, but just using bingo cards. So that's crazy. When they hypnotize Chris again at the end and they strap him to the chair and he's watching these videos, he's thinking of a plan to escape. Chris is strapped down on the chair and he keeps on scratching and he finds the cotton coming out of the chair. So if you really think about it, Chris was literally forced to pick out cotton to save himself. And as we know, in America, white people had blacks picking out cotton for work or to survive, basically. When Chris is in the chair and he's downstairs and the father and the son are working to do the whole transformation, fucking Rose is in her room listening to music, looking for new prospects, new black people or new black men to go after. She's eating cereal, but she's not eating cereal how we fucking eat cereal. She has a bowl of Fruit Loops and then a cup, a glass cup with milk and a fucking straw in it. And they're not together. She's taking a couple pieces of Fruit Loops, eating them, and then drinking the milk from a separate cup, separately. So this could kind of be a metaphor, imagery for separating the colored from the whites. So colored whites, black and whites, that's fucking crazy. This I also seen in the article, and it was talking about how every time they say a mind is a terrible thing to waste, that was actually a slogan for the United Negro College Fund. And there's a scene where Roger's at the house, he's trying to think of a plan. We actually hear in the background on the TV, it says a mind is a terrible thing to waste, college fund or something. It was super subtle. So Jeremy was the one who actually is kidnapping the black people, or the muscle, let's say. He's the one who took, I keep on forgetting his name, let's say Logan, and he was kind of dressed in all black with a knight helmet, a medieval knight. This could kind of be a metaphor for the Ku Klux Klan, the white knights of the Ku Klux Klan. Because I also thought, why was he wearing a fucking mask like that? He could have why was he wearing a helmet like that, old ass helmet, when he could have put on like a ski mask or something? So once again, this might mean something, this might not, but it's pretty interesting if it does mean something. Oh yeah, there was also one more thing. At the end, when Chris is escaping on the road and he's about to kill Rose, but he doesn't, we get a cop car coming towards him, and at the end we find out that it's Raj, his friend. But before he finds out that his friend, he just thinks that it's cop car. He immediately puts up his hands. And why does he do that? He wasn't doing nothing wrong. He was the victim, and yet he still chooses to put up his hand. Another symbolism of how black people are treated and they are forced to act in these type of situations. Thank you for watching. Once again, these are my theories and some of the theories that I found online about the film. We don't know if they're true or not. There's only one way to find out, if we fucking talk to the director and ask him these questions. But most likely than not, he's probably not going to tell us because it's more of an interpretation of yourself. Art is like that. Whether it's music, painting, or films, it's more of how you take it. But still, these are pretty dope things that I found and other people found. Please comment down below what you think of this video or what you think of the movie. If you guys found anything or if you think of anything that was strange that might mean something.